Good morning. I wanted to start our week off with a book about geometry because this week you're going to be learning about all kinds of angles. So I thought it would be good to kind of start with a book like we would do in class. So this is called Lines, Segments, Rays, and Angles. And I'm going to go a little bit quickly until we get to the angle part. County Fair. The county fair is open. Signs for the fair are all over town. Grace and Ethan are going with their Aunt Sarah. It's an exciting day filled with geometry. Geometry is the study of points, lines, and other shapes. A point is an exact position. A line is a straight path that goes in both directions with no end. So you probably remember this from last year, a point and a line. And our activity box, it says, look for signs at the fair and find 4 points. So a point could be here, a point could be here, here would be a point. On the way to the fair, they make a game of looking for lines. A telephone wire looks like a line. Aunt Sarah explains the difference between a line and a line segment. A line segment is part of a line. It has points on either side called endpoints. A line has no endpoints. The fence posts look like line segments because they have an endpoint. The telephone line would keep going on forever and ever if it truly were a line. Rays. We're getting close to our angles. The fair has a Ferris wheel. Ethan says that the spot in the middle is a point. Grace says that the spokes of the Ferris wheel look like line segments. Aunt Sarah says they're both right. Then she explains a geometry idea called a ray. She tells them to imagine a spoke of the Ferris wheel is going out in one direction without any end. That is a ray. The center of the ray is its endpoint. A line continues in both directions. A ray continues in only one direction. A ray has only one endpoint. So again, last year I know y'all talked about a point, a line segment, which is part of a line, 2 endpoints, and a ray. You've got a point and it continues on forever. Oops. It continues on forever. Different kinds of lines. At the cotton candy stand, Aunt Sarah explains what can happen when 2 lines appear together. Lines can be intersecting, parallel, or parallel. Intersecting lines are lines that cross each other. Parallel lines never cross. Line segments can also be intersecting or parallel. Here we have intersecting lines, and here we have parallel. I always remembered parallel. We've got these 3 L's. Those are your parallel lines that would never touch. Intersecting are just lines that cross. We're going to get into our perpendicular lines over here in 1 second. Look for intersecting and parallel lines and line segments. So here we have 2 lines that intersect. And here we have 2 lines that are parallel because they never meet. They kept on going. Perpendicular lines. Here's our special kind of intersecting lines. At the carousel, Aunt Sarah points to the perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines cross in a special way. They make a square corner where they cross. Perpendicular lines form square corners too. And our corner is also called a 90-degree angle, which is where we're going this week. Can you find perpendicular lines and can you find parallel lines? Here they found perpendicular lines where they're crossing right here in a perfect square or a 90-degree angle. And these would be parallel lines. Here would be another set of parallel lines. Here would be a set of perpendicular lines. Angles. This is where we are today in this week. We're talking about all kinds of angles this week. The Ferris wheel has rays. Their ride also has angles. An angle is made up of two rays or two line segments. The two rays or line segments have the same endpoint. That endpoint we call a vertex of the angle. Here are two rays. There's their endpoint. Now it's a vertex because two rays are meeting. Angles of different sizes. This down here is kind of interesting as a way to help you remember, especially when you go on your angle scavenger hunt. Aunt Sarah holds her hand out to show angles with openings of different sizes. So this one would be really small. When it's straight up and down, it's making that right angle or 90 degrees. And they're showing you different types of angles here. All right. Angles have special names too. There are right angles, and that's where, if you hold your hand out, I'm trying to think here. If you hold your hand out here, this and this would almost be a right angle. This one, between these two fingers, would be an acute angle. And this one is a obtuse angle. It's a nice mini protractor. Angles have special names too, just as a pair of lines do. There are right angles. Right angles are angles that make up a square. Perpendicular lines are a corner. Acute angles, they're so cute, are any angles with an opening smaller than a right angle. So if we had a protractor, we measured this, this would be less than 90 degrees. There are obtuse angles. Any angle with an opening greater than a right angle is obtuse. So our three types: right angle, cute, he's so cute, he's little, and obtuse. Use your arms to make kinds of angles. Show a small opening for an acute angle, a big one for an obtuse, and then draw each kind of angle on a paper, which is part of your scavenger hunt this week. Find the right angles, acute angles, and obtuse angles. This one would be obtuse because it would be bigger than our right angle. Here's our perfect corner. This one is so cute, acute angle. The last ride. Aunt Sarah agrees to take the children on one last ride. While they wait, they talk about geometry they see around them. Ethan sees points and line segments. Grace sees parallel and perpendicular line segments. Aunt Sarah sees different angles. They all see intersecting line segments. What do you see? So we look on this paper. I'm looking here and found a acute angle. Here would be a right angle. Here's another right angle. Let me see if I can find an obtuse angle. Obtuse is a little bit more difficult, I think. if we looked here and made this our vertex, and this is one line, and this is a line, this would be a obtuse angle because it's greater than 90 degrees. Geometry all around us. Grace and Ethan left the fair tired but happy. The children learned a lot about geometry. See what you learned in this book by answering the questions below. How are a line and a line segment different? What is a ray? Where might you see parallel lines and perpendicular lines? Can you name the different kinds of angles? You can use the glossary and index of the following pages to name them. Now that you know the basics, go see geometry wherever you go. Thank you. Have fun on your angle scavenger hunt. I can't wait till you see y'all's pictures.